Hi friends, Mindy here. Welcome back to my channel. I have made a mistake and today I'm going to try to fix it. I joke a lot that a lot of times I will just make problems for myself that I have to figure out how to fix later. And that's exactly what has happened here. So a while back I was making a journal from a little golden book, and I wrapped the cover incorrectly. And so I ended up with two pieces. I was wrapping them independently, and I ended up wrapping them, one of them, like the wrong direction. And so now I have two basically front covers instead of a front cover and a back cover, if that makes sense. Like they have an exposed chipboard edge here that was meant to be covered by the spine, but it's on the same side on both pieces. So I'm going to have to fix this. And it took me a little bit to, I just kind of set these off to the side and thought, well, let me just get to that later, and kind of forgot about it. And then as I was working through some of my to-do things, I came across these and I have an idea for how to fix it. I hope it's going to work. I'm going to pull in yet another little golden book and basically make two journals out of this one messed up cover. And so I want to just address an issue with little golden books. I get this comment quite a bit anytime that I say that I'm going to be using a little golden book, about not saving the inside pages and, the cover and everything. The books that I'm using for this type of project are not precious to me. This one is actually, the copyright date is 2015. This is not a vintage book. It's not precious to me in any way. I didn't read this to my children when they were growing up. This is just a book that I have, has come into my possession. And instead of, just tossing it to the side or whatever, I'm going to use it. Now, if you would like to see at some point me do a more traditional altered little golden book where we take apart the spine and save the pages and add pages in and do all of those things, I'm happy to show how to do that. I have altered little golden books in many ways through the years on my channel. Sometimes people don't even know that what I have done is an altered book, and that bothers people, and I appreciate that. These are not my little golden books from my childhood that I have saved on a bookshelf. These are, this would be one that would be destined to either the Goodwill or a landfill or whatever. And so in my opinion, this is a good way for me to give it new life and repurpose it and use it here to fix my problem. So I do get a lot of questions about that. I'm not being disrespectful to, all the people who love altering little golden books or little golden books in general. I think they're fun. I think they're fun to alter. I think the pages sometimes are really cute on the inside and worth saving. And so I can alter them that way. Like I said, if you'd like to see that process, drop a comment and I will, add it as soon as I can. I'll do that. I have shown other altered books through the years as well. But for this, I really like the size of them. And so especially, if you've trimmed down the spine, they're a good size. They're good to work in. It's a good space like for creating. And so I really just like working with them. And sometimes I'll save the papers and sometimes I won't. It just doesn't, it just depends. But, enough about that. If you want to see a traditional one, let me know. I'm happy to do it. But I see that, I recognize that people are a little bit upset whenever I do this and I don't, keep the pages intact and all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to address the why behind that. Also because, again, this one was printed in 2015. These are, they're still being made today. These are not vintage. These are not first edition. These are just books that I'm going to be using today. So anyway, enough about that. How I'm going to be fixing this, or how I hope to fix this, is by pulling in another little golden book that will be now the back cover. So I'll have, these two pieces will now become the back covers of these two journals. But I didn't want these two journals to be identical, even though they, are starting out that way. So what I'm going to do is pull in a couple of Tim Holtz papers that coordinate, and I will kind of wrap this back piece around to the front so it feels like a cohesive journal cover, even though it, the front and back are going to be very different. So these are the two pieces that I have chosen to use. I will wrap the back pieces, and hopefully this works the way that I have it in my brain. I think it should be okay. But like I said, I think that you can don't fear making mistakes, because even if you make one like this, there's usually a way to fix it. And so sometimes you just have to let it settle and think it through a little bit. And but usually it's just paper and there's a way to fix it. And so hopefully we'll be able to fix these today. This might end up being a multiple part series of videos. I hope you'll stick with me through all of that. But I'm going to stop yammering now, and I will speed this up and do a voiceover for the process so you can kind of see my thought process behind how I'm going to fix this. Okay, so the first thing that I need to do is trim my cover down to the correct size. So I'm basically just cutting off the little spine section of this little golden book. There's actually a gap between the spine piece and the cover that is just being held by the paper. And so I'm just going to trim that down. I did not trim close enough to the chipboard though, so it looks like it's a little bit long. It's a little bit wider than the other cover. So I'm just going to use my pencil here and make a line down it. And really it was just the paper. I just needed to trim a little bit closer. So I just went in with my scissors and trimmed closer to the actual chipboard cover, and it worked fine. And now I'm just measuring so that I know how tall I need to make my piece of paper. So I want to leave about an inch top and bottom so that I can wrap the cover. My little golden book is about just 8 inches, just shy of 8 inches. So I'm going to cut this down to 10 inches, but I don't know how wide I need this paper to be yet, because I don't know how big the spine was. Originally, I was going to use the spine that came with Mr. Hugglefish there, but this is only 1/2 of it because those pieces are actually 2 separate pieces of chipboard, and so it wasn't thick enough. So I have some other chipboard in my stash that is closer to being the same thickness. I'm just going to cut a couple pieces of this. This is going to be 1 inch, and so I'll save the other one for the other journal. And then just to make sure that I get it exactly the right height, I'm just using the cover as a template and just lining it up, and then I will use my pencil, make a line, and then trim this down with my X-Acto knife. That way I just have it at the exact right height, that, you know, anytime you're adding kind of a spine piece, you want it to be the same height as your covers and the same thickness of chipboard if at all possible. So you can see how that is going to work. So now I'm trying to decide how wide I need for that piece of paper to be. That's going to be basically the back cover around the spine and wrapping to the front. So I'm lining everything up on my mat and just trying to figure out. I also know I need to be mindful that there should be a gap in between those the spine piece and the covers. And then I'm trying to decide how far over onto the front cover I want that piece of paper to go. I decided to be about an inch there. So my spine piece is going to be around 9 inches long, or not my spine piece, this back cover piece. And so my paper, and that ends up being 9 by 10. And so you can see I had to turn it because I had it the wrong way. And so to prevent myself from any further mistakes, I am going to mark that this is the top so that I know I'm doing it correctly and gluing everything down properly, because, you know, I don't know if I have much more room for more mistakes with this with this cover. But anyway, so I'm adding a piece of double-sided adhesive. This is the scrapbook.com version, just to that right or left side of the spine of the cover where this page is going to wrap around. So I'm just lining everything up. I'm going to take advantage of my mat that I'm using here to make sure that I'm leaving myself an inch up at the top, an inch at the bottom, so that when I wrap the back cover, I have, you know, the space that I need, and then keeping this straight on the front cover as well. And you can see here, it just wiggled just a little bit. So it's not exactly straight, but it's kind of par for the course for me for this journal, apparently. But now that we have that piece kind of adhered, I'm going to go ahead and add adhesive to the spine piece. I'm going to work in sections. So I'm going to do this spine piece. I'm going to pull the release papers off of here. And then it's very important whenever you are covering a journal, or you have a journal where you have a front cover and a back cover and a spine piece, and they're all separate pieces, to leave a gap in between all of those sections that's about the same width as your chipboard. So you see I'm just bringing in a cover and kind of holding it in place while I line everything up. And that just will allow your journal to close really well. It's, you know, a little bit different when you're using like a box that already has, you know, all three pieces all attached. That's kind of a different technique. But whenever you have the three separate pieces, just leave yourself a little bit of gap. Otherwise the journal won't close properly. So, and now I'm just using this other cover here to line this up, and I'm just making sure that, you know, it's lining up evenly top to bottom, and then of course giving myself that gap. And that's why I leave those release papers kind of hanging on, because it gives me a little bit of wiggle room. And then I can press it down, and then once it's good and adhered, I can pull those release papers. And so now I'm going to start kind of working around trying to just soften up some of the fiber from this paper, just because it's really, really thick and beautiful, good paper. But sometimes when you are trying to wrap a journal or fold it, it can tend to crack if you're not careful. And so I want to just kind of work that. I went around with a bone folder as well, just to kind of almost score it so that it folds a little bit better. And then I'm coming back in here with my double-sided adhesive, and just along the areas where this paper is going to wrap to the inside. And so I will start on the bottom here, and you're going to see I will sort of take it and roll it up on its edge where that chipboard is. And this is just going to help it make sure that that has a good it stays nice and tight next to the chipboard. And this paper, again, because it's so thick, I'm having to really kind of work at it. And then I will also take my bone folder and go down in the gutter of that section, and just really kind of push that paper in there and soften up that area so that it doesn't tear. And then or crack or anything like that. And then it will help it so that when my journal closes, it will will close nicely. And then I'm going to do this same thing up to the top section. I'm just rolling it over, and I will go through, burnish all of that down with my bone folder, and then go back into the gutter. And then that will allow my cover to close really well, and keeps everything moving nicely the way that you want it, so it doesn't like force it to pop back open. And then I'm going to do the short side. So anytime you're wrapping a cover, I've mentioned this 100 times, but you always want to do the opposing sides first. So if you're doing top, and then you want to do the bottom. And so if you're doing the long sides, then you want to do the short sides, and you just get a better finished look, in my opinion, that way. So I always do the long sides first, and then the short side. I did have to add a little bit of liquid adhesive just to the edges of that short piece, because the double-sided adhesive didn't reach that far. And then just burnishing that down again with my bone folder. And you can see art glitter glue dries really quickly, so it's already going to stay stuck down. And you can kind of see how this is looking so far. Now, I need to do the inside section, and I have this piece of fabric that I want to use that I think coordinates really well. But I want to pull in a piece of paper first. So I'm going to audition a few different pages. These I'm not sure where they came from. A friend sent them to me, and so I'm not sure where she got them, but I just kind of auditioned a few different ones, and I really loved this ledger looking one. So I'm just kind of eyeballing the measurement on this one. I made a little mark with my pencil, and then it's 12 by 12 paper, so I cut it in half, thinking that that would be good, and then it was still just a little bit too wide, so I ended up taking off another like 1/4 of an inch. And you can see I just wanted to make sure that I would have an equal border all the way around. So I have come in with those two end pages now and added some double-sided adhesive to both of those. And I will start with the one on the back, and I'm going to do this same process. I'm going to pull the release papers, kind of leaving them as little flags so that I can just get everything in place first, especially when I know that, you know, this adhesive is very sticky, and I have a tendency to drop things or whatever, and once it's stuck down, it's stuck down. So this helps kind of prevent accidents for me. So you can see I'm just kind of lining it up here, getting everything in place, again, trying to keep it, you know, so there's the same border all around this. And then I will press it down and pull the release paper, and then I'll do the same exact thing to the front cover. So that's how that is going to look. And now I need to glue down my fabric piece, and want to use a fabric here because I'm still a little bit concerned that I am only using paper to secure the spine of this journal, because paper has a tendency to rip and crack and whatever. And so I want to just make sure I have another way to keep this secure. In hindsight, there was another option that I should have done before I did all of this. So I will actually do that to the second journal, but I'm definitely just going to use fabric here to help secure this. And this journal is this one is just going to be for me, so it's going to be okay. But I did go in with some double-sided adhesive, and then on the spine piece, I actually used Aleene's Tacky Glue. This is not my favorite glue to use. I'm trying to use it up, but it does have a little bit more working time than like my art glitter glue, so I have time to just smooth out the adhesive because I don't want it to seep through the fabric. So this is just a good way to get a good even coverage on there. So I'm just lining up my fabric using the center section and then the double-sided adhesives on the side, and it will just hold everything in place nicely. And then coming back in with my bone folder in the gutter there to kind of push the fabric down into there so that it really will close really well. So you can kind of see how that's going to look there. So I will do the second part of this where we add some paper to the signature and sew it in. And also I will show you how I'm going to fix the other cover as well in a second video. If you are interested in that, leave a comment down in the description or down in the comments and let me know you'd like to see that. So if you liked this video, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Be sure to join my Facebook group, check out my website. All those links are in the description. And until next time, bye.